9. Liam Mkhitary. Liam Mkhitary wanted some quick money, and apparently he wanted it badly enough to kill his friend, Sarah Stern. He hoped he could cash in on her $25,000 savings. He committed the horrific crime back in late 2016, with plans to make the murder look like an accident. Mkhitary broke into Sarah's New Jersey home and strangled her, causing her to have a seizure. Then he stuffed a shirt down her throat while holding her nose shut. He left Sarah's car on a bridge with the keys still in the ignition. Police searched Shark River for Sarah's body but never found it. Mkhitary told them that she had been talking about wanting to leave her life behind and flee to Canada. He also claimed that she had threatened to commit suicide, citing the young woman's strained relationship with her father. The truth came to light 2 months later when police finally had enough evidence to charge Mkhitary with murder. Authorities obtained recordings showing that Mkhitary plotted the murder over a 6-month period. The damning tapes featured Mkhitary talking about how Sarah had found $25,000 cash inside her family's vacation home, and how she had used some of the money for vacations and surgery for her dog. By the time the killer got his hands on it, there was only $10,000 left. The bills were reportedly in such terrible condition he wasn't even sure if they were usable. Mkhitary claimed that the recordings were part of an audition to appear in a horror movie, but the judge wasn't buying it. He was sentenced to life in prison without parole, and an accomplice received an 18-year sentence. 8. An inheritance to die for. In October of last year, Irish father and son team Ty and Diamond O'Sullivan shot Diamond's brother Mark. Then they turned their guns on themselves and took their own lives. The tragedy began in early 2020 when Diamond and Mark's mother, Anne, received a terminal cancer diagnosis. She planned to split her sprawling farm between her 2 sons. Anne's husband, Ty, and her younger son, Diamond, were enraged by this. They felt that Diamond deserved to inherit most or all of the farm because he worked on it. In the meantime, Mark told friends that he feared for his life. He genuinely believed that his brother and father might actually kill him, and for good reason. Diamond had made more than a few threatening remarks. Mark even went so far as saying that he thought the pair would murder him and make it look like a suicide. And he was at least partially right. One day, Ty and Diamond entered Mark's room and opened fire. Anne fled on foot towards a neighbor's in an attempt to get help for her slain son. By the time police arrived, the murderous pair had shot themselves. They left notes in their pockets indicating that the violence was planned well in advance. Anne, who believed that the pair killed Mark to make her suffer, died 6 months after the triple tragedy. 7. Rich in money, poor in friends. Luis Carlos de Noronha Cabral de Camara was a wealthy Portuguese loner who knew better than almost anybody else that money can't buy happiness. He was the illegitimate son of an aristocrat who never had his own children and very few friends. While drawing up his will in 1988, the miserable multimillionaire was faced with the question of who to leave his fortune to. At a perceived lack for other options, he bequeathed his funds to 70 random people from the Lisbon phone directory. When Luis Carlos drank himself to death in 2007, his unsuspecting heirs began receiving phone calls from lawyers about their money. At first, they thought they were being scammed, but as they soon learned, it was the real deal. Much of the man's fortune went to the bottle, so he didn't leave behind as much as one might expect. But each person received thousands of dollars, not a bad deal for having never known the guy. It came as good news to the heirs, but was part of a very sad story about a lonely man who had something that most people want, money, and wanted something that most people have, friendship, companionship, or some other type of human bond. But there was apparently more to the story. Anibal Castro, one of Luis Carlos's only friends, told The Guardian that the eccentric loner was determined to leave nothing to the state. He felt robbed by the government and wanted to create confusion by leaving his money to strangers. 6. A pampered pooch. American businesswoman Leona Hemsley was notorious for her ruthless and cutthroat demeanor. Nicknamed the Queen of Mean, the tyrannical woman became best known for saying, "We don't pay taxes. Only the little people pay taxes." She inherited over $5 billion following the death of her second husband, real estate tycoon Harry Hemsley. By then, she'd already been convicted of federal income tax evasion and had done prison time. Hemsley reportedly became a recluse in her later years and was estranged from much of her family. She also had very few friends and died in 2007 after spending years in relative isolation at her penthouse home. With such a limited circle, she chose to leave a large portion of her fortune to her Maltese dog, Trouble. You may wonder what exactly a dog could possibly do with $12 million. A lot of people ask the same question, including a judge who ruled that Hemsley was mentally unfit when she drew up her will and reduced Trouble's inheritance to $2 million to be used for the dog's care. Trouble's caretaker received $60,000 per year. Meanwhile, $100,000 went to full-time security every year, and thousands more went towards grooming and food. After Trouble died in 2010, the remainder of the money was put back into Hemsley's estate. Hemsley's decision to leave so much money to her dog earned her the number 3 place on Fortune magazine's 101 Dumbest Moments in Business in 2007. She left nothing to 2 of her 4 grandkids, but they ended up receiving $25 million each in 2019 as part of a settlement granted to the executors of Hemsley's will. The family issues have been kept quiet as part of a court agreement, and much of the Hemsley's fortune ended up going to charity. 5. A marital mistake. A deceased Indiana woman's will made headlines recently for some interesting stipulations that prevented her son from cashing in on his trust fund. After the woman died in 2015, her son found that the fine print banned him from collecting his inheritance outright if he was still married to his third wife, which he was. According to the terms, he could still receive the money, but it would go into a sub-trust controlled by his sister. The son challenged the legality of the trust, and the Indiana Court of Appeals ruled that the conditions posed an illegal restraint on his marriage. But the matter proceeded to the state Supreme Court, which reversed the decision, arguing that there are no laws stating that a trust can't be based on marriage conditions. The judge agreed with the ruling, according to local news station WLFI, but he also pointed out that the case was a good example of why the state's trust code needs to be tightened. In what he described as a Pandora's box of unintended and harmful consequence, Justice Christopher Goff explained that under the current law, a person could require their heirs to marry someone based on demographics like race, or to do illegal things like refuse to pay property taxes. 4. A burdensome bill. The Samsungs are South Korea's richest family, and South Korea has one of the world's highest inheritance taxes. So naturally, having big money comes with big bills if you live there. The first family of Korean-made electronics found this out the hard way last year when they were slapped with a $10.8 billion tax bill following the death of the company's chairman, Lee Kun-hee. To make matters even more stressful, Lee Kun-hee was very private about how he wanted his financial affairs handled after he died. So it may have come as a surprise to learn that his only son, Lee Jae-yong, could tighten his control over the company by inheriting his father's shares in Samsung subsidiaries. But he'd have to come up with a way to pay the massive tax bill, which is more than half the value of Lee's estate and over 3 times the total inheritance taxes the country collected last year, according to the New York Times. It appears as though the family is still trying to sort out how to split up the estate. They announced that they'll donate Lee's art collection, which consists of some 23,000 pieces and is worth roughly $2.2 billion. It includes extremely valuable works by artists like Picasso and Monet. The Samsungs will also donate $900 million towards fighting infectious diseases, rare diseases, and childhood cancer. These generous moves come on the heels of some bad publicity for the family, including Lee Jae-yong's recent imprisonment for bribery. And although the Samsungs have reassured the public that they plan to pay the inheritance tax in full, they've been accused of breaking tax laws in the past. Their predicament truly gives meaning to the idea of having so much money you don't know what to do with it all, even when you have to get rid of a bunch of it. 3. Avoidable hardship. Kathy Boone died homeless last year at age 49 while at a warming shelter in Astoria, Oregon. Little did she know she was due to inherit nearly $900,000 following her mother's death in 2016. Unfortunately, by then, Kathy was lost to the streets, and nobody was able to find her and deliver the news. A lawyer for the estate had tried to track her down through social media and through family members, and had even hired a private investigator and placed newspaper ads in his attempts to locate Kathy. But Kathy remained elusive while struggling with addiction and mental health issues. She had relapsed after her mother died unexpectedly at age 68, and nobody caught her on time to let her know that she had some money coming her way. It made no sense to Kathy's father, who told local news outlet KGW that the money was just sitting there and she needed help in the worst way. He also conceded that his daughter had had a rough life, but when she was good, she was really good. The year before Kathy's untimely death, a judge ruled for the $884,000 inheritance to be transferred to the Department of State Lands, which is where unclaimed money and property go. At last update, the estate was working to see if Kathy's 2 children have any rights to the funds. 2. A Forfeited Fortune. Juan Carlos I was King of Spain from 1975 until 2014, when he abdicated the throne over an embezzlement scandal and numerous other ethical quandaries, including an elephant hunting trip to Botswana. Ever since, his reputation has been shrouded in controversy. In a move to distance himself from the disgraced royal family member, the former monarch's son, King Felipe VI, announced in 2020 that he had stripped his father of his palace allowance. Felipe also relinquished his due inheritance. His decisions made a powerful statement, since most people aren't quick to turn away a fortune. But Felipe wanted to make it clear that he's not like his father, and this was the most compelling way to do it. He made these announcements amid an ongoing investigation by Swiss authorities into Juan Carlos I's shady financial dealings. Meanwhile, the Spanish Parliament decided against launching an investigation. Allegations against the former king date at least as far back as 2008, when rumors swirled about him receiving $100 million via an offshore account from Saudi Arabia's late King Abdullah. Prosecutors believe that the money constituted kickback payments and suspected Carlos of money laundering. Felipe was listed as a beneficiary of the fund, but he denied any knowledge of this. His decision to back out of his expected fortune was a fantastic PR move. While Felipe stands to lose quite a bit of money, he gained the support of Spain's political parties and was recognized for his exemplary public service. 1. Disinherited but unashamed. In 2020, British actress Elizabeth Hurley's former lover, Steve Bing, tragically committed suicide. The billionaire businessman had just started getting to know his son, Damien Hurley, weeks before his death. Bing showed all the signs of a man who wanted to right his wrongs. In addition to calling Damien for the first time on his 18th birthday, Bing had recently won a court battle against his own father, who was trying to exclude Bing's children from the family trust funds. Sadly, Bing's father failed to respect his son's final wishes. He appealed the court ruling and came out on top, with a new decision dictating that Steve's 2 children wouldn't receive a penny, all because they were born out of wedlock. Instead, the money will go to the children of Bing's sister Mary, whose parents were married when they were born. Damien and his half-sister Kira lost out on what could have been a $250 million fortune, but they are also confronted with the emotional scars of being excluded by their own flesh and blood. Liz Hurley said little throughout most of the ordeal. She finally broke her silence to the Daily Mail, stating that Bing wanted his children to be financially taken care of and believed that they would be. Bing had refused to acknowledge his 2 children publicly for much of their lives, and he even purposely excluded them from his will at first, but he had a change of heart before he died. Hurley teamed up with Lisa Kerkorian, the mother of Steve's daughter, in their fight for their children's inheritance, but their pleas fell on deaf ears, and Bing's father was granted the right to distribute the money as he wished. Although there's nothing they can do about it now, the women continue to make it clear that this is not what Steve wanted. Thanks for watching. If you'd like to hear more about inheritances gone wrong, let us know in the comments below and be sure to subscribe. See you next time. Bye.